It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows.
Go get 'em, George.
George Galloway, and the mother of all talk shows. Welcome to the Open University of the Airwaves with George Galloway.
ISIS will fire. It's the Israeli way. The slaughter and starvation of the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip has not ceased for 1 hour, even as the laughter of the farce in the Israeli Knesset and at the summit in Sharmelsheikh could still distantly be heard. And this is no time to be talking about peace, says the American Secretary of State for War, as he instructs his European vassal states to keep on shelling out more and more of their diminishing resources on weapons to fire at the Russian Federation. Tomahawks may soon be flying. Hawks, whilst a dreadful weapon, actually doesn't cut it in 2025, as they'll quickly find out. Stay tuned. It's the mother of all talk shows.
Curious about our curriculum? Have something to say? Then call us now to join the debate on the mother of all talk shows. The only education you can get for free. George Galloway, the mother of all talk shows. With George Galloway, the world is our classroom, and you're welcome to sit in and join the seminar.
Not since Caligula used to hold court in the ancient Roman Empire. You'll remember that occasion when he declared his horse a proconsul of Rome. Has there been a two-dealer like the one Israeli president to give a pardon to the criminal Prime Minister of Israel, who hasn't even been convicted yet, but he's supposed to get a pardon on the orders of Donald Trump? The Arab members of the Knesset, having been helpfully bundled out by brutal security guards for raising their voice whilst Trump was there in support of Palestinian statehood. But if the Knesset was a farce, the Sharm-el-Sheikh summit was one of the most shameful spectaculars ever seen, and it was all seen and is now endlessly clipped and is being watched on a loop all over the world. The humiliation, the ritual degradation of Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, probably the most humiliated, the most degraded of all the leaders, ritually humiliated in Sharm el-Sheikh, was a laughingstock when he got home. And it showed in the exchanges in the British Parliament the next day. This man, so desperate to be of use, any use to the empire, in his increasingly useless government and increasingly decrepit and increasingly authoritarian state, was left completely shamefaced as he stepped forward, that fake smile on his face, only to be brutally ordered back to his place by Donald Trump, who couldn't even remember his name. But he wasn't the only one ritually humiliated. The royal visitor from the UAE, having been pulled and pushed in Trump's traditional macho manhandling handshake, had attention drawn to his shoes. "Wonderful shoes," said the President of the United States. "Your shoes are always so nice. So much cash, unlimited cash you have." No one ever heard a President of the United States talk to a vassal like that, and moreover a vassal who's even more filthy rich than Miriamadelson, to whose absolute servitude Trump pledged himself the day before in the Knesset. I'll come back to her, and I'll come back to the Knesset. The tough guy, Mr. Erdogan. How many times is Trump going to tell us how tough a guy Erdogan is? If he's that tough, why didn't he do anything whilst hundreds of thousands of Palestinians perished, were murdered and maimed in the Gaza Strip for 2 whole years? If he's such a tough guy, why didn't he do anything about that? That would have been a toughness worth seeing, worth something. But the prize, and I could go on, I mean, Macron was another one. He was pushed and pulled and tossed and turned like a little marionette, like a ventriloquist dummy. That's what he looked like. They're talking about nothing else in France than the humiliation of the French Republic by Donald Trump. But the prize, the biscuit, or whatever the Pakistani equivalent of a biscuit is, goes to the self-appointed Prime Minister of Pakistan. The real Prime Minister is, of course, behind bars in a dungeon at the hands of Trump's favorite field marshal. Couldn't remember his name either. So give my regards to my favorite field marshal. It reminded me of George W. Bush when he prayed in aid the support of the then Pakistani dictator, General Musharraf. He called him the general. The journalist asked, "What's the general's name?" And George W. Bush replied, "We just call him the general." Well, his favorite field marshal, Munir, and the self-appointed Prime Minister of Pakistan had recently been to Washington to get their marching orders and to beg for more financial aid. And I'm coming back to that point too. But he was the stooge who was put up by Trump to deliver a cringing, toe-curling panegyric to Donald Trump's greatness that left even Madame Meloni covering her mouth in horror. Such a servile, obescent, creeping, crawling display of servitude has never been seen before. You can be sure that Imran Khan would not have done that. That's why he's in prison, and why Shehbazsharif, who once upon a time I used to take tea with in the Edgware Road in London, not a bad fellow actually for a servant, exactly he proved to be at sharmelsheikh. Much more seriously, it's turned out that Pakistan is now America's servant in ways that is beginning to make their longest and best friend, the People's Republic of China, distinctly nervous. But again, I'll come back to that. Before I do, I want to talk about Miriamadelson. I confess I had never seen her picture before. I have seen pictures of the devil before. I have seen pictures of witches, hubble bubble, toil and trouble. I have seen Macbeth, but I've never seen anything like Miriamadelson. Neither had I any idea just how filthy rich this woman is. Trump, in front of her, told the entire world that she has $60 billion in her bank account, which explains why Donald was on his knees. I mean, Donald spent a life with the woman being on her knees, but he is on his knees to Miriamadelson. He told the world that in exchange for a tiny fraction of her 60 billion, I may say he could have driven a better bargain. If I'd been driving it, I'd have got far more out of her for what you gave her, Donald. You gave her and her husband, now deceased, casino owners in Las Vegas. How classy is that? You gave her the removal of the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, illegally occupied Jerusalem, by your own law, and you declared against your own law that Jerusalem was the eternal capital of Israel, which of course legally it is not and never ever will be. But you did that when, as you say, no American president had ever done that before. That would have been worth the money she gave you on its own, but what else did you tell the world that you gave her? The Golan Heights, which by your own law does not belong to Israel, is illegally occupied territory belonging to Syria. Resolution 242, Resolution 338, and your own law declares that the Golan Heights is not in Israel, but you, in return for a few $100 million, a mere bagatelle to her 60 billion, you recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and they put up an ugly, vulgar block of flats and called it Trump Tower in your honor in the Golan Heights. You told the world that her and her husband were the most frequent visitors to the White House, though they hold no official position of any kind and never have. We know what they were doing there, Donald. They were giving you cash, probably much of it in brown envelopes, if I'm a judge of your conduct and theirs. Maybe in casino chips. Maybe they fed you high-value casino chips to play with in Las Vegas. You didn't divulge that, but that's my surmise. You gave them everything they asked for. You gave them unlimited access to the Oval Office in your first and now in your second term. And you did it for the grubbiest of marked dollar bills. And even more extraordinarily, you told the world that that's exactly what you did. Now, let me go back to Pakistan. It's a well-known truism that when two global south countries start a war with each other, that one of them has just been to Washington, or that Washington has just been to one of them. The peals of laughter over Shehbazsharif's speech at Sharm-el-Sheikh were still ringing in everybody's ears when full-scale war, including the Afghan capital, Kabul, burst into flames as rockets and bombs and missiles flew between Afghanistan and Pakistan. The head of intelligence of the Taliban, I know it sounds like a contradiction, he is dead. And a cell of Pakistani intelligence was immediately hit in return and set on fire, and we don't know who was killed in that. But hundreds have now died in a war between the neighbors, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Why? For what purpose? For what reason? I'll tell you what the reason is. Bagram Air Base. You remember, late one night, over the last couple of weeks, Trump announced, apropos nothing, that he wanted Bagram Air Base back again. He said back again, but actually the Russians built it in the 1950s. But Donald doesn't know that kind of detail. He said give Bagram back to those who built it. He didn't mean the Kremlin. He meant the United States of America. To be sure, Bagram, a torture chamber when the Americans were there, where illegally rendered people were plunged into black prisons and tortured, oftentimes to death. It's a shameful piece of American-owned architecture. It's shameful for another reason for people like Trump, because when the United States left Afghanistan like a thief in the night in Joe Biden's presidency, they stole away in the middle of the night, leaving hundreds of billions of dollars worth of weaponry and war materiel. And the United States military and its securocratic three-letter agencies have never recovered from the ignominy of their retreat from Afghanistan. So we've got a regime change operation on our hands. But here's the complication. China has extremely good relations with the Taliban and has the best relations that any two countries could ever have with Pakistan. Now that Pakistan is doing Donald Trump's bidding, when they take their collective national tongue out of Donald Trump's crack, what's going to happen in the mutually exclusive business of one of China's allies trying to destroy and overthrow? They've already occupied, they say, 10% of Afghanistan in a single day. and they are bombarding the capital, Kabul. What's going to happen? How is China going to manage that conundrum? Well, Gayatri and I are on our way to China. We'll be there in the next couple of days. I hope to be able to report further and better on that subject in due course. But that's not the only cause of anxiety. I spoke to you the other night about China's total domination on the processing of rare earth materials, which accounts for something like 90% or more of the world's processed rare earth materials. It's a big card. It's a powerful card. It's a card that China has and Donald Trump does not have. And so the US is on a desperate scramble for ways that they can circumvent China's domination of the rare earth markets. Guess where they've fastened on as the most likely of the conduits which under Pakistan, the patsy of Sharm-el-Sheikh. Much more coming up. It's the mother of all talk shows. We have to rage against the dying of this light. Many of you, I know you're saying it already, there was never much light, that England was not the green and pleasant land you are making it out to be, and we never were free and we never were a democratic country and so on. Of course I hear and recognize all of these points of view, but I grew up in what turned out to be a brief moment of social democracy in this country. It didn't go far enough, but it is an incomparable land to the land that we live in today, of brand new council houses, with your father working in a factory at the end of the road that the government had forced the company to redirect to, with a health centre at the other end of the road where you got free milk, orange juice, malt, a free NHS if you were clever enough, free university, completely free, and an era of free speech. Of course, the television was owned by just a few oligarchs, and if you didn't cut the mustard with them, you would never be seen on television. But nobody would ever dream of telling you that you were under arrest because of a placard that you held up. Nobody would ever dream that 90-year-old ladies, that blind men in wheelchairs, that 80-year-olds in their scores, maybe hundreds, would end up on terrorism charges in Britain for expressing support on a piece of cardboard for an organization of peaceful, non-violent, civil disobedience people.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Well, here's the poll for this evening. Have Arab states sold out the Palestinians? Next week, it's Is the Pope a Catholic and do bears defecate in the woods? 25,000 people have already voted, and it's pretty overwhelming, except on X, as is normally the case. Have the Arab states sold out the Palestinians? Yes or no? Well, you can vote on my Telegram channel, t.me/George Galloway. Please follow me on that anyway. You can vote on my X. You can vote on the YouTube community poll, on the YouTube stream. And if you're watching on the YouTube stream, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. It will make a difference. And give a thumbs up to the show. And if you're one of the vanguard, the creme de la creme, and you support me on Patreon, patreon.com/George Galloway, you can vote on that portal also. If you want to call the show, it's toll-free in the United States and Canada. It's +1 844 944 3344. It's free of charge in Britain and Ireland, 08081 965522, and the worldwide number is 0044 203 966 2625. Now, it's always a pleasure to introduce favourite guests, but there's no pleasure greater for me than introducing the great Gerald Celente, our native New Yorker, the founder and publisher of Trends Journal, where you'll learn what's going to happen well before it happens. Gerald, welcome back to the mother of all talk shows. Can we start with Miriamadelson? I've never seen anything like her or that performance by Donald Trump, not just in the Knesset in front of her, but also at Sharm-el-Sheikh. Your observations, please.
Again, it's old news. Let's go back to when Sheldon was around, her husband. He gave Trump, what, $100 million? And what did Trump do? Hey, we're moving that embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Hey, and you know that land you stole from the Syrians? It's yours. It's yours in the Golan Heights. Again, it's a payoff. And they control the country. And again, like I say, don't call me an anti-Semite. I don't want to hear that crap. If I didn't like Mussolini, am I anti-Italian? And again, as I say, 3 of my last 4 girlfriends were Jewish, so I don't want to hear. And every one of my Jewish friends except one is totally opposed to what Israel is doing. The United States is totally controlled. Look at AIPAC. Look at the money they give. Look at the hundreds of millions. What is it, 600 million that the Adelsons gave to the Republican Party? I mean, it's a crime syndicate that people call a government right in front of your eyes. Hey, if they were Italian, they call them a mafia, right? Oh, before you were talking in a little break about, England, not being a democracy. I'm tired of hearing this king crap word. A bunch of murderers. Again, if they were Italian, they'd be a mafia. Oh, and they dress up in all these drag costumes with all the little medals, and people walk on the red carpet to kiss their ring. All right? It's going on all over the world. The rich are in charge of everything. In a country near you.
Yeah, and very near you and very near us, I'm afraid to say. We're the leading culprits in the world today. We started the Palestinian disaster, and your country bankrolls it and arms it and vouchsafes it in international diplomacy. But coming back to Adelson personally, Trump told us, I'm not sure she'd be too pleased about it, that she has $60,000 million in the bank. Because not a lot, people are used to just using the B word, billion, like it trips off the tongue. $1 million is a lot of dollars. Imagine $60,000 million. That's what she's got in her bank account. And therefore, what she gave to Trump, I mean, the Qataris would have given him double that. But they never got the opportunity. And even when they do give him, he does nothing for them or their interests or what their ambitions are, what their wishes are. What's so special about the Adelsons and about the Israel lobby in the United States that for comparatively low sums, small amounts of money, they can buy the world?
Again, it's been going on forever. But let's go back to Trump getting money from the crypto people. Go back to 2020 and 2021. How Trump came out against Bitcoin. He said it was, not in exact words, but said, it was killing the dollar and it's a fraud, on and on. What did he get? Over $100 million from the crypto people when he ran for government? When he ran for president? Oh, and $10 million, tens of millions of dollars from his inauguration from the crypto people? Oh, then he had them all over? Oh, and now his kids are in the crypto business? Oh, and now Witkoff or Jerkoff, whatever his name is, the guy, one of the commerce secretaries, or Witkoff, Lutkoff, these guys, their kids are in the crypto business, cabinet members. They're getting paid off. Adelson is just only one of them. And again, the facts are all there. All the money that, again, look at all the people that lost the midterm elections and the other elections because of what the Israeli funds went against them. So they're controlling the country and they control the media. Oh, look what just happened. I forgot. Larry Ellison, his little boy, right? He just got CBS News. Oh, you're pro-Zionist. And who did he bring in? That bariweiss, who's a pro-Zionist who runs CNBC? It's in front of everybody's eyes. It's right there for everybody to see. Again, it's total control. Money talks, BS walks. And by the way, you mentioned it, the billions that she's worth, $100 million, $600 million, that's chump change. And where are all the billionaires out there giving money for peace? Not a penny. Not a penny.
No, for sure. By the way, I've just heard that the airplane carrying your Secretary of State for War, Pete Hegseth, has developed an emergency over the Atlantic and has turned around and is headed back for London. So we'll keep that story under review as well, Gerald. But he was blunt with the NATO chiefs today. He said the time for talking about peace is over. You now have to buy American weapons and give them to Ukraine. And they will be weapons of greater consequence than that has gone before. And I'm thinking of these cruise missiles, Tomahawks, which Trump is openly stating that he might be going to throw at Russia. What could possibly go wrong, Gerald?
Look at the little clown boy, another guy. Where did he come from? A little cartoonist with Fox News? Look at this arrogant little boy. Rubio, one after another. And again, this is, hey, you elect me? We want to have peace on earth all over. Oh, that was Trump back in, when he was running for office in September of September 25th. Yep. We're gonna stop that. If I were president, we'd have the Ukraine war settled in one day, 24 hours. All right, vote for me, vote for me. And now they're sending them the weapons. Once upon a time, there was a president of the United States by the name of Dwight D. Eisenhower, 5-star general, supreme commander of the Allied forces, and 2-term president. He warns the American people that the military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. And here we are in rotted America. You take Amtrak train. I'm 4.5 hours if I drive from Kingston to Montreal. Take Amtrak, 10 hours each way. All right? They just passed a bill almost $1 trillion to the military-industrial complex. Now let's go across Europe. Oh, you got that little boy Starmer over there. Oh, he's building up the military too. Oh, the little Catzon Macron over there in France with a peck of the size of that, if he has one at all. We're building up our military and we may even send troops into Ukraine. How about Merz over there? Oh, the BlackRock guy? Little Merz? Oh, Germany, third largest economy in the world, in recession for 2 years. Oh, but this year, our government, our GDP will grow by 0.2%, and we're going to borrow $1 trillion to build up our military. And of course, we got to build up our infrastructure to hold the tanks. Oh, these are the Germans? Hey, you liked World War One, didn't you? I like World War II better. The Operation Barbarossa, when you killed 25 million Russians and they're building it up. Oh, we're putting our troops in, was it Lithuania? Oh, yeah, right on the border. It's right in front of everybody's eyes, and you can't talk about it. Like you said, they'll arrest you. Look what they did in America. You came out against the genocide in Palestine, and you went to college. You're out of here. Take the money from the colleges. You're not allowed to talk about peace. You only could support war. And again, total BS coming out of Trump's mouth. I want immediate peace with the Ukraine war. That's when January 20th, when he got elected. I want immediate peace, one after another. Oh, hey, how about bombs away over Iran? Oh, now they're bombing innocent people. Oh, no, they got the drugs in those boats that are 1,500 miles from off the coast of the United States going in Venezuela. Oh, we're going to fight a drug war. Hey, did everybody forget back when he was president in 2019? He wanted to put in that little Guaido, and throw out Maduro? Had nothing to do with drugs? You think the United States would have invaded Iraq, eastern Syria, and Libya if their major export was broccoli? It's all about oil and Venezuelan oil. But they're killing innocent people, not bringing them to court, nothing. Bombs away. They just bombed another boat, the fifth, coming off the coast. Oh, they had drugs in there. Our intelligence, they say.
They don't even know who's on the boat. They haven't published one name of anyone allegedly on the boat. These are extrajudicial murders that the Oval Office is publishing as a boast on video.
I know. It's murder in the first degree. Hey, you elect me. I'm Obama, the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner. You elect me, I'm going to have peace. Quoted in the book Double Down, I'm really good at killing people. One after another.
Well,
one after another.
Undoubtedly. In the time left to us, Gerald, I want to talk about the so-called peace plan for Gaza, which has not actually applied for one single hour. They made this big circus in the Knesset, then in Sharm-el-Sheikh, but the killing has not stopped for 1 hour. And now the gates are all closed again, the aid trucks are all halted again, and so the slaughter and the starvation continues whilst everyone is still applauding Trump. And your media and ours are acting like peace has broken out in the Middle East when nothing could be further from the truth.
And don't forget, Trump told, don't bring Netanyahu to court. Yeah. Here, this is from Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper. Far-right French minister Bezalel Smotrich vowed Tuesday night, last night, that, quote, there will be Jewish settlement in Gaza. It goes on to say, there will be no Hamas in Gaza, no threat to Israeli civilians from Gaza for decades. There will be Jewish settlements in Gaza. And you ready? We have patience, determinations, and faith. With God's help, we will continue the series of victories and miracles God has done with us. What God you talking about, Godson? Hey, all you people that, you got your 10 commandments. How about thou shalt not kill? Screw you. What are you talking about? Oh, yeah. Stealing the land. These aren't settlements. These are crimes against the Geneva Convention and Article 242 of the United Nations. They keep stealing land. They're going to keep stealing land. Oh, and before you were talking about, Trump, how about his little son-in-law over there, Jared Kushner?
Yeah.
This is from the Trends Journal back in August, in 2024, February. Jared Kushner, former President Donald Trump's son-in-law, described valuable waterfront property in the Gaza Strip. And he goes on to say, ready? It's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there. Little bit of an unfortunate situation. You're slaughtering people in front of everybody's eyes and genocide, unfortunate. But from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out of there. Clean it up. And he added to move the Palestinian civilians into the Negev desert. Where's the outrage?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And the nepotism of it all is so naked, so brazen. I mean, I'll tell you what, Gerald, I want to know who made the $300 million killing on opening a crypto account in the morning, closing it in the late afternoon, and making off with $300 million in profit, having shorted the American economy, knowing what Trump was about to do with China. I want to know who that was.
Yeah. Again, it's a crime syndicate that people call a government. What's your favorite war? I like the Vietnam War. No, I like the Iraq War, the Afghan War. I mean, hey, remember this one? They invented a thing. One of my lines is, when all else fails, they take you to war. Following the .com bust, by the way, which we had forecast in our Trends Journal, back in 1999, the fall, autumn, we said it would bust by the second quarter of 2000. The NASDAQ lost 80% of its value. All of a sudden, 9/11. Everybody forgot about it. All right. What happened next? I'm talking about a crime syndicate. Hey, you don't have a job? You out of work? Don't worry about it. We got a subprime mortgage here. Here, sign over here. The banksters caused the panic of '08. The Federal Reserve, according to the Levy Institute at Bard College, gave them $29 trillion to bail out the banksters as everybody else goes bust. It's a crime syndicate. Hey, I'm Jamie Dimon. We only got convicted of 5 felonies. Oh, we rigged the precious metals market. Oh, you remember 2019? Yeah, we paid $900 million. So shut up, all right? I don't go to jail. It's a crime syndicate that people call a government in a country near you.
Near us. Absolutely. Gerald Celente, as always, a tour de force that will live long and travel far. Thanks for joining us on the mother of all talk shows. That's Gerald Celente of the Trends Journal. You really need to get it. You need to get it, and you need to read it. Let me take a quick break. I'm still reeling from that. Your calls coming up next. Stay tuned. My grandson, Sean, who's answering the phones tonight, had his first 1 million view tweet about Gaza, and I predict great things from him. So we're not going to go away. We believe in the next life. We believe that we will all be judged on what we did in this life, and that will determine our fate. And so we face whatever we have to face, if not with equanimity. Can't say that the experience was one that one can feel sanguine about. It was genuinely horrific, and I'll never forget it. It was the more horrific for being unexpected by me. I never believed that someone like me, of my age, and with my background and with my position in British politics, would ever be told that I was being held under the Terrorism Act. I'm not unmoved by it, but I'm certainly undeterred by it.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Well, let's see how the poll's doing. Wow, 27,000 people have voted. Have the Arab states sold out the Palestinians? Yes, 94, 85, 90, 94, and 100%. That's in the Vanguard, of course, on Patreon. No, 6%, 15, 10, 6, and 0. Get your vote in before the last quarter of an hour of the show. So you've basically got an hour still to vote. Let's get that poll up to at least 30,000 votes cast. Now, a note for your diaries. Coming up on the 18th of October, that's this Saturday, there's a national call to action. Red line for Palestine. Remember our martyrs, marking 2 years of genocide. There's a meeting at 12:30 at Shabana Mahmood's office in the Jewellery Quarter in Birmingham. That's Saturday, the 18th of October. And I can't be there. I'll be in China. But I dearly love to be there. As you know, I have a score to settle with her. Actually, here's a call about it. DJ Scorpion, always worth hearing. DJ, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Galloway. Are you
Welcome.
basically said what everything I wanted to say?
Well, just underscore it. Who are the speakers and what's the point?
Basically, the point is, Mr. Galloway, trying to stop us from protesting the new laws they're trying to bring in. Especially how who were treated this year to get back into the country, and they're trying to suppress your right of basically standing up against the government for standing for Palestine. You believe it's wrong how you've been unfairly treated?
That's my score to settle with her, for sure, DJ. But listen to this. The Home Office, every single day, is announcing more and more Nigel Farage decisions. I mean, I've never heard anything like it. If you're seeking to settle in Britain, you have to have A-level English. 95% of the British population doesn't have A-level English. But if your face is brown, you need to be able to quote Shakespeare, write like a novelist, comprehend. I mean, A-level English. I mean, I've got an A pass in A-level English, but I'm quite good with words. Most people in Britain could not get an O-level in English, never mind an A-level. The amount of money you've got to earn in order to bring a wife or a husband of your choosing, the rules of people who are already here with rights, that they'll have to work, so no stay-at-home mums. I mean, it's one thing after another, and it's all being presided over by somebody called Shabana Mahmood. It's unbelievable. Did we lose DJ?
Here.
Yeah, sorry. Last word to you, DJ.
Basically, Mr. Galloway, we're all coming out to protest on Saturday, 18th of October, to send a message up to Shabana Mahmood. You can't suppress our rights. You know, our Birmingham city is in a mayhem at the moment with the bin crisis. Instead of sorting out the crisis with the bin workers, and suppress our rights, and at the end of the day, we're standing up for our rights, and we're going to continue doing that, Mr. Galloway. And we thank you very much for all your support each and every time.
Amen. You'll always have that wherever I am. On the bins, the Labour Council in Birmingham has spent more money fighting the bin workers, their own bin workers, than it would have cost to meet the claim of the men and women of the service in total. They are ready to spend more and more and more in order to force a wage cut on the Birmingham bin workers. This is a Labour council. Shabana Mahmood is a Labour minister. I must move on. On YouTube, you can scan the QR code now and you can leave a comment, and I'll read it out as Bootstrap did. Erdogan is Israel's Turkish delight. Mr. Moriarty says, Starmer, I'm right behind you as always. Makes me vomit in the mouth. It was. So, I mean, I hated Margaret Thatcher and I hated Tony Blair. But neither Thatcher nor Blair would have tolerated being treated like Keir Starmer was by Donald Trump in Sharm-el-Sheikh this week. Lourdes Lopez says, I'm sorry for the citizens of the United States. You voted for Donald Trump as president, but your president is Miriamadelson. And Sultana Bati says, Gerald Celente needs to run for president. He'd have my vote. Karaoke Star says, George, Gerald, have you seen the oil deal made with British Petroleum to extract the resources from Gaza? Here's a legend on the line. Clear the lines. Sarkar in Glasgow. On you go, Sarkar.
Hi, George. George, thank you so much for your kind words. George, unfortunately, things which are happening in the world, I don't think so there's anything called kindness or empathy left in any politicians. I'll talk something very seriously with regards to what I have been seeing in Afghanistan and Pakistan. The Western media may be just putting a small column here or there or a passing article here or there, but it's much more dangerous. And give me a few seconds to explain it, George. The reason being, we have seen this horrible movie before. Every time somebody tries to cause peace, some kind of tranquility on the Durand line between Afghanistan and Pakistan, like Imran Khan, the famous cricketer, former rightful choice of prime minister, either a coup takes place, or they're incarcerated, or they just vanish from public eye. And how is that done? With the blessings of the West, either through a puppet prime minister or, the new word, my favorite field marshal. In 2001, Musharraf made the same mistake, went to the pockets, went to the cozy cuddle of George Bush, and started picking up fight with the Afghans and started slaughtering them. What happened? Over the years, year after year after year, when the Afghans retaliated through the Taliban or various other factions, innocent people died from both sides. The obsession with getting the air bases and the other strategic parts of Afghanistan by the West is so much that they're happy to keep up and prop up puppet governments and generals in Pakistan. Doesn't matter how many innocent people get slaughtered. This Prime Minister of Pakistan, as well as this field marshal, is making the same mistake. Today, the Afghanistans may be slightly getting a heavier pounding than what they are. But believe me, George, one by one, when they start doing the guerrilla attack for the year after year after year, the death toll would be faced by the Pakistanis, not by the Americans who are funding this unnecessary fight with Afghanistan through the Pakistanis. I'd like to hear your views, George.
I couldn't put it better than you did. I'd only add this, and it's really an expansion of what you said. Alexander the Great failed successfully to occupy Afghanistan. The British Empire, in its pomp, failed successfully to occupy Afghanistan. The Soviet Union failed in its pomp successfully to occupy Afghanistan. The entire force of NATO, the US, the UK, Denmark, everybody was there for 20 years, and they failed successfully to occupy Afghanistan. I promise you, your favorite field marshal ain't going to successfully occupy Afghanistan. The Afghans and the Yemenis may be the two most formidable asymmetrical guerrilla war machines that the world has ever seen. This is the anniversary, by the way, of the uprising in Yemen. And I salute the people of Yemen who won their independence after a bitter struggle with the British Empire, which began on this very day. Thank you, Sarkar. Now look, donations to MOATS have been very, very generous this week, and I have to pay the maximum gratitude to those who've been on to the MOATS.tv website. Tonight's roll of honour is as follows: Madeline Sturge, Reg Mayer, Patricia McCaffrey, Abdullah Mansouri, and a very big, heartfelt, sincere thanks to our good friend Norm Asif, the Honourable Norm Asif. Norm is a lawyer of great note, a jurist of the highest order in Canada. And Norm has made the best ever donation that we have ever had on the Mother of All Talk Shows. And he has done so on behalf of his late father, Kamal Asif, who was also a big fan of this show. And I'm humbled, I'm moved beyond words by the scale of your generosity, Norm. And I'm deeply grateful to you. I can't thank you enough, and I hope I get the opportunity one day in this life to thank you in person. There's an email service that Norm provides. Sounds very interesting for those interested in the Muslim religion. It's called Quran Daily Minute. It's an email that goes out across the world with a particular verse of the Quran and commentary on it every single day. Quran Daily Minute. I don't know if you can get it just by looking up on the internet, but if you are at all interested in the Islamic religion, I commend it to you, because if the Honourable Norm Asif is the man behind it, it will definitely be worth seeing. A big thanks to all of you who have given so generously this week on MOATS.tv. And a big thanks in anticipation of those who are going to before the end of the night. Let's go to Germany, where Malik wants to talk about Pakistan and Donald Trump. Malik, welcome back to the show.
Good evening, Mr. Galloway. Having watched and listened to your monologue and watched the speech being made or having been made in so-called Middle East peace conference, and I can speak for most of the Pakistanis that we are so ashamed and embarrassed to hear this man Shehbazsharif licking the backside of Mr. Trump. And as you know, that
it was pretty humiliating, Malik. It was really. I mean, I'm a friend of Pakistan of 40 years and more, and I was embarrassed for Pakistan.
Well, this is what I'm saying. We are all very embarrassed, as you well know, that this is an illegal prime minister having put in the government by the Pakistan army mafia, and as you know, he does not represent Pakistan. As most of the governments in the world, they don't represent the people of those countries. And same thing, and this is why he was called boot polisher, and Imran Sharif called him cherry blossom, the shoe polish. This is what I want to say, and I'm so ashamed that we have somebody like that representing Pakistan, and now they're starting a war with Afghanistan.
It's such a great country, such a great people, and that, I mean, I know it's a very big insult, but to see the Prime Minister of Pakistan, effectively a shoeshine boy, as you say. I mean, if he'd got down with his duster and started shining the shoes of Donald Trump, nobody would have been surprised. It would have been an entirely logical progression from what he actually did live on television to the entire world. Now look, I've got to promote a very important X space tomorrow. It's a Workers' Party. You know, I'm the leader of the Workers' Party. But Chris Williamson, my parliamentary colleague and deputy leader of the Workers' Party, and Dr. Bob Gill, who is one of those doctors you can get an appointment with, they are hosting an X space called Call the Doctor. That's from 9 p.m. on the Workers' Party YouTube channel and Facebook page. Now, of course, I know Chris very well, and I know Dr. Bob very well, and I have recent experience of the utterly unacceptable state of the National Health Service when trying to get an appointment for one of my own young child, trying to get a doctor's appointment for a young child, and being told I couldn't get one for 3 whole weeks. I sure know the NHS is in crisis. So that's 9 p.m., is it? Yeah, 9 p.m. on the Workers' Party YouTube channel and Facebook page. I commend it to you. Karim is in Canada, in Montreal, and he wants to talk about the Gulf. Go ahead, Karim.
Mr. Galloway, you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, brother.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be talking with you. I admire you very much for your courage and for your also, honest reporting, I believe. My question, sir, would be, as a son of immigration, my father immigrated to Canada in the 60s. I've been raised in our household as a Muslim, but I'm a part of Western Canadian society. So, it's been like a kind of a smack in the face to see that everything I was taught in school about Western values and all of that was just a big lie, that the mask, when we know that the mask is off now, and that these lies and this greed and these criminal acts go with impunity, where we should be a society of laws and electing people who represent us. All of this now is kind of out of the mask is off. This is what I say. But do you think
mask is
that
off. The lipstick has been wiped off the face of the pig?
So, with this broken system, do you think that it's still possible to, by any way, maybe by having these people who have money but who also are honest people lobbying these corrupt politicians to bring back the political pendulum in at least, a more honest and more, if you want, true kind of society? Or do you think we have to do a kind of table rase? And, when we do table rase, there's a lot of victims called guilty, but also innocent. So, this is my question to you. I would like to know your opinion about this because I respect your opinion.
No, I believe in democracy. As Mr. Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government apart from all the others. So I would never be encouraging anyone to adopt violence in any way as a political solution. That would create just as many problems as it would solve, and probably considerably more. We have to face some unpleasant facts, Karim. We get the politicians we vote for. And there's no point in saying, not in my name. It is in your name. It is in my name. My country, your country, voted for the politicians that are destroying the world and threatening to end the world if the current course of international politics continues. we may very well be looking at the end of times, brought about by man and by nuclear conflagration. And Keir Starmer, I mean, what can I say? I gave everybody an alternative. Everybody could have voted, at least in 150 constituencies. They could have voted for me, for the Workers' Party, but they didn't. We came second in 4 seats. But in the great majority of others, we were not at the races. People voted. Most people didn't vote, of course, but those who did vote, they voted for Keir Starmer. So what do you expect? If you vote for donkeys, what do you expect? Other than them to put their faces in the nose bag and eat their way through their term of office, literally and metaphorically, and to pause and look up from their nose bags only to say, yes, sir, to whichever American president is currently giving them orders. And the same is true in Canada, the same is true in Germany, in France, and so on. There were options, but people didn't take them. And that's why we've got the governments. So don't abandon democracy. Redouble our efforts to provide a viable alternative that people can relate to, can understand, and ultimately can vote for. That's what my colleagues in the Workers' Party will be doing. Thank you, Karim. Now look, I'm well past the break time, but coming up we've got Dr. Sabreena Ghaffar-Siddiqui, who's been on the show before and was quite a hit. She has been one of those ousted for her outspoken advocacy for Palestine. We'll see what she thinks of where we are now. I'll be right back in 2 minutes. Trust me. Stay tuned. His approval ratings are in the toilet. He won a huge mandate well less than a year ago, and he's thrown it all away. He has an approval rating of just under 40% now, and a disapproval rating of all the others. There are no don't knows in the issue of Donald Trump. And so he has maximized the number of people who hate him or dislike him, and he has systematically undermined the voting base that formerly liked him. And I don't know whether that is because of his donors, because he's intellectually challenged, because it's of his age. I really don't know.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Now, Dr. Sabreena Ghaffar-Siddiqui is a former sociology and criminology professor. She was ousted because of her support for Palestine. It's almost the number of people, and a lot of them women, a lot of them Muslim women, who have stepped up to the plate even at the cost of their own careers and said, we will not be, and children are slaughtered in Gaza in industrial numbers. Well, Dr. Sabreena is one of those. So let's find out how she is faring now in this post-professorial world, and in particular, and I know she'd agree more importantly, where does she think Gaza is now? Dr. Sabreena, do bring us up to date with what's happened since we last talked, when you were effectively blacklisted. A McCarthyite witch hunt was mounted against you, and you were ousted from your position. Tell us what's happened since.
I'm so sorry, I was on mute.
Unmute yourself,
Firstly,
Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me on again. Since we have last spoken, I still remain unemployed, blacklisted in the academic world. I've been given an arbitration date by my union for fall of 2026 for the first time that I'll be able to voice my case and get any kind of justice. So that would be, a whole 2 years after being ousted. And that's where our institutional kind of systems lie in terms of any kind of accountability for these kinds of unfair dismissals.
What fake charge did they hang on you? I mean, we talked to a GP on the last show who was suspended, won her case, and then they reopened it again. Double jeopardy. Tell us, what was it they accused you of?
So, interestingly, it wasn't anti-Semitism, although those were the complaints that kept coming in. I essentially had become a nuisance because Zionists kept emailing and complaining about me. But because I wasn't actually anti-Semitic and I was in the role of senior advisor, diversity, equity, inclusion, and I was very familiar with equity language, they couldn't really accuse me of anti-Semitism. So they accused me of incivility and unprofessionalism because I made a joke. I made a joke about, I believe there was, I think the Maldives had released a statement saying that anyone with an Israeli passport would not be welcome. And I had shared a post of the beautiful, pristine waters of the Maldives. And I had said something like, some call it paradise for its waters and others because you won't find Zionists there anymore. And it went viral.
Quite a good joke. That's quite a good joke. And you only shared it. And you got sacked as a professor for that?
Basically, yeah. They said that it was very unprofessional of me. So yeah, I mean, I was told that my case was very strong and it was very clear that they were, very heavy-handed. But it's taking 2 years to even appear. And I had been told, like I said last time, that I had been advised by my lawyer through the union that I should cool it on my advocacy until I have an arbitration date. Otherwise, I wouldn't really see any good come out of it. And that was a year and a half ago. And my arbitration date is next year. I mean, since then, we've had so much carnage and a fake sham ceasefire, as you are well aware.
Yeah, I was just about to turn to that, Doctor. I have zero confidence in Netanyahu adhering to the terms of the peace agreement, which actually there are no terms. This is an agreement signed by everyone except Israel, who was at the summit in Sharm-el-Sheikh, which is literally not worth the paper it isn't written on. I don't believe for 1 second that this is over. Do you?
Absolutely not. I mean, it wasn't even over when they said that it was over, and the main reason is that, look, we've all been calling this a genocide because it is a genocide. And the truth is, you can't ceasefire a genocide. You could ceasefire a war, but we don't believe it's a war, right? We know that it's a genocide. Prior to October 7th, it was a slow drip genocide. And post October 7th, the carnage was, full force. So there was no way that there was going to be a ceasefire. The aspirations of Israel was the Greater Israel Project. And you must have seen that just this morning, the finance minister, Smotrich, said that settlements in Gaza will happen as a security measure for Jewish people. So in the same breath, they are saying that Hamas needs to disarm and settlements will continue as a means for security. Now, Jonathan Cook this morning gave a really good analysis of BBC's Jeremy Bowen's analysis, where he said that, well, Hamas is not going to disarm because of two reasons. One, essentially, they are inherently barbaric. They're addicted to their arms, so they're not going to be able to disarm for that reason. The other reason they're not going to agree to disarmament is because they're worried about people within Palestine who don't like them killing them. So essentially, he was sowing this seed of like, there is people don't like Hamas, that there is division, and that they are inherently barbaric. Absolutely no consideration for the fact that security is something that Palestinians are entitled to. I mean, the fact that you can have Smotrich say that settlements will be built because of the security of Palestinians, and then say something, and to expect Palestinians to disarm, this paternalistic, and I spoke about this last time I was here as well, this expectation for those who are being oppressed to not resist their oppression with violent force, which is something that they are legally entitled to. It's very paternalistic and infantilizing, and it's rooted in Orientalism.
Oh, for sure, it is. If you knew Jeremy Bowen, like I know Jeremy Bowen, and knew therefore the vast difference between his privately expressed views and the hireling views that he enunciates on television for money and for professional advancement, you'd be even more horrified about what Jeremy Bowen has been saying throughout this. But the idea of Israeli settlements in Gaza is not just illegal. Everything in this entire picture is illegal. It is in complete contradiction to the position taken by almost now all Western governments of the two-state solution. They all recognized Palestine as the West Bank and Gaza, and yet the Israeli government is making plain there will be no Palestinian state either in the West Bank or Gaza, let alone both of them together, and they're all singing along as if Israel hasn't spoken yet, as if Smotrich hasn't made the malignant promise that he restated this very day.
And that in itself is genocidal, and yet there's this constant reiteration of like this phantom genocide, apparently, that will be, conducted on Jewish people. So we're in the fear of this phantom genocide, we have to accept the real genocide that's happening. And, this genocidal behavior is so obvious. I mean, you probably must have seen that just today, 45 corpses were handed over to the Palestinian Authority, to Palestinians, and there were visible signs of execution and torture, where, hands were zip-tied, and we are expected to believe that that is the side with morality and that's civilized and we need to disarm Hamas. I mean, it was very obvious when the exchange was even happening between the hostages. It was so obvious in which terrible condition Palestinians were brought back from their torture dungeons. So, this genocidal intent and actual genocide behavior is so obvious. The ceasefire was a sham. It was a much needed reprieve for Palestinians, which is why I did not share any kind of criticism, when ceasefire was announced, because who are we to criticize the joy that was felt by Palestinians in that moment? But you'd have to have the memory of a goldfish to believe that, Israel was going to actually abide by, the terms. Just in January, a peace deal was made, a ceasefire was established, and everybody was praising Trump for what he had done, and it was broken within hours, within days. And again, we've seen that. Just today, 15 people were taken, were imprisoned in Rafah. I mean, it's like a revolving door of taking Palestinians, illegally imprisoning them. We already had 9,000 Palestinians illegally taken and kept in these torture dungeons. And, the number has doubled since October 7th. We know that. I think 323 at least of them are children. And 83% of them describe torture in these dungeons that they are kept in. 115 of them, I believe, are health workers who and I think you spoke about this in your show yesterday, that there is a propaganda campaign that is done to make people believe that those wearing medical coats or press vests are terrorists. It's to manufacture consent for them to be taken. But why is the world not up in arms about 115 medical workers being illegally imprisoned?
Tortured. One doctor was raped to death. Just imagine that. Now, finally, Doctor, it's a personal question, really. How have you borne up through it all? Have you had support? How did your family react, your friends? Have you been shunned anywhere? Or have you been encouraged by how people have rallied round?
I think, those of us who do this type of work, and Dr. Rahma, who you spoke to yesterday, I believe, a comrade in this fight, in this movement, probably will kind of attest to the same, that those of us who do this work don't really do it expecting any kind of support or praise. The truth is, if I didn't have any support whatsoever, it wouldn't stop me from speaking up, telling the truth, losing my job. The fact that I do have support from community, interestingly, from the Jewish community, one of my closest allies and one of my closest comrades is a Jewish rabbi here in Canada who has supported me throughout. I don't know if you were aware, but just last week, or like a week or so ago, I had a strategic campaign against me, a doxing campaign, because of comments that I had made after the synagogue attack. And, these campaigns are so strategic. They come after you. It's like a memo is sent out to all the propaganda accounts, and then they email you and message you and send you death threats. And, I know that Rama is worried about her children. I too worry about my children. I too worry about my family. But this is the reality that we are in. And, I was just speaking to somebody earlier that, this is a psychological war as much as it is a material war, sadly. And the psychological war is being born, we are the ones who are bearing the brunt of it, being gaslit, being lied to, we are the casualties of that war, the narrative war. And we are resisting it as much as possible. The fact that I have continued speaking, even though I've had so many attacks, I haven't stopped giving my analysis. And the thing is that I think the reason why people get especially bothered by people like Rahma and myself is that obviously being a racialized woman triggers people, right? A racialized Muslim woman is very triggering for people who want to put you in a box and want to believe that Muslim women look and sound a certain way. I think, the other reason is that we have titles in front of our names, be they colonial titles, whatever. The point is that having a doctor title in front of your name gives you legitimacy. I am an academic. I have a PhD to prove my intellectual capabilities. I write very well. And that is very threatening. It's very threatening for Zionists. And that's why there is such a insidious, targeted campaign against people like me, because liberation is contagious. Decolonizing your mind is contagious. The more I speak, the more people are inspired by my story. And you asked first about how I'm doing since, being ousted. One of the things I'm doing is writing a book, which should be released in a couple of months. And it will really be an expose of the diversity, equity, inclusion industry. And that in itself, again, is a form of resistance, that they ousted me from a role, but here I am coming back and teaching them about it and decolonizing DEI. So keep a lookout for that as well. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here.
We'll definitely have you back on the show with your book Resplendent, I promise you. Dr. Sabreena Ghaffar-Siddiqui, an author, an activist, and a former professor, ousted for her advocacy on Palestine. Thank you for joining us. Let me take a quick break, and then it's your calls all the way up to Gayatri's social media roundup. Stay tuned.
The airwaves. This savannah is a rigid dichotomy of fact and fiction. As vicious as the Twitter sphere, where the slightest misjudgment can spell being cancelled. One species rules over the airwaves through its ability to adapt and survive in even the harshest environments. The George Galloway. The top cat in these parts, it is mostly active on Sunday evenings in Britain and mid-afternoon in the United States. It seldom roars during the day. Most notable for its wide variety of headdress, it protects these parts from the mainstream media. You can catch this fine specimen on the mother of all talk shows. Don't pick a fight with it. They've been known to bite back.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Have the Arab states sold out the Palestinians? Almost 30,000, not quite yet, have voted, and it is totally overwhelming. Yes, they have. Hard to deny, I'm afraid to say. Carl is in London on Palestine and Turkey. Let's hear from him. Go ahead, Carl.
Hello, George. You all right? Oh, just
oh, good, sir. Yeah.
You said last week, like, why did Turkey send back their ships, and why ain't Erdogan doing nothing? Like, do you want Turkey to wage war against Israel, or do you want the Ottoman Empire to return? Considering what happened in World War I, the Arabs betrayed the Turks. They should risk their country, risk their people for Arabs. They made their bed in World War I, Zionist Britain and Zionist France.
That's obviously an interpretation. It's not one that I share. I was merely making the point that Donald Trump keeps saying that Erdogan's a tough guy. And Erdogan keeps saying that Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem and Palestine are in his heart. So I'm only asking, why isn't he a tough guy on the issue of Palestine?
Time comes, it's going to be World War III with Turkey. Turkey's not Iran. Israel's not scared of Iran. The only nation Israel fears is Turkey.
Well, that might be true. Look, I'm not against Turkey. I'm not even against Erdogan. I'm against him allowing 40% of Israel's oil to cross his country from Azerbaijan. Are you? Hey, Carl. What a pity, Carl. I would have thought you'd have been dying to answer that question. The Turkish will not be happy that you ran away from that one. Now, look, all it takes is a donation of £1, £10, €20, whatever you can afford to support the mother of all talk shows. A big thanks to tonight's top donors, who are Isabella McCardle, Michael Weinberg, Mahmoud Ahmed, Peter Brinch, and Eddie Keating. A big thanks to all of you. And for those of you who are going to go in a few minutes' time at the end of the show, or even now, please give it a try, moats.tv. Lance is in Canada on third-party politics. Let's hear about that. Go ahead, Lance.
Just a side note, I did see some of Tag Hickey's interviews on when they were held, and it just makes me sad to think that such young people could be so disrespectful. But like the people who are holding them were obviously probably young and probably in the IDF, but a young person being that disrespectful to other adults, and then you're going to raise kids. It's just terrible. And that whole situation was terrible, and I love Tag Hickey. But anyway, my
he's
comment
wonderful.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You're on the air.
Well, my comment on third-party politics, one of your callers called in last week, and he said, the Green Party guy was on Piers Morgan, who I do commend Piers Morgan for putting the other side on. Nobody else does. I don't like him, but he does do that. But
that's true. Can't deny it. No.
But it seems to me that there's a concerted effort and a lot of money spent to make sure that those third parties really press those LGBTQ division buttons really hard. Like I went to some of our more prominent ridings for the New Democratic Party in Canada, and you're familiar with some New Democratic people. And it was almost as if the speaker was required in every paragraph to talk about LGBTQ. He could be talking about labor movements, he could be talking about healthcare, but he had to put LGBTQ in every paragraph. And I have no problem with LGBTQ people, but it seems to me that across the world they're working so hard to tie the left to issues like men, women with, different organs and things like this. So, I do believe that is a concerted effort to destroy third parties because they kind of know people are getting fed up with the main parties. And I believe there's a lot of...
There's a great piece today, I commend it, by the Italian writer Thomas Fazi, F-A-Z-I. I haven't read the whole piece yet, but I've read the summary. And he describes, by using original documentation from the deep state in the United States and elsewhere, of how the deep state defeated, if you like, the old left, like me and you, Lance. The old left, not necessarily in years old, but we had old-fashioned leftist ideas about peace, against nuclear weapons, against imperialism, for workers' rights and wages, for a defense of those countries where progress had been made and where these countries were under attack by the empire. That was the old left. That was me, still me. And a deliberate plan was hatched by the deep state to try and atomize what was seen to be a potentially important threat to the empire. And the way they decided to do it was to break collectivity and exalt individuality, to stop talking about class and start talking about ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, transsexualism, and all the other alphabet soup ingredients that you are alluding to and that I have so many times adumbrated. It's not that we're against anybody. It's that we are in favor of uniting the maximum on a minimum program which is capable of uniting the maximum. It goes without saying. The more buttons, as you put it, you push, the more times in a paragraph you mention things which do not have, in some cases will never have, but definitely at this moment in time do not have the kind of popular support that will allow a movement to be mounted and be successful, to change the basic terms of political trade in the Western world. And, you know, I get slated for doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway. We have to park the things that will divide us and narrow down and minimize the things that will unite us. If we had a 5-point program in Canada, in Britain, in the United States and elsewhere against war, against genocide, in favor of workers getting a just and fair share of the wealth which they produce, opposition to austerity as a means of making the poorest pay for the failures of a system which exists to protect and enhance the living standards of the wealthiest. If we could get a program, 5 points, which said we believe everybody is equal. That's it. We're all equal. Men and women, black and white, gay and straight. We are all equal. We are opposed to war. We are opposed to genocide. We are opposed to an economic system which leaves the workers, those who produce the wealth, at the bottom of the heap and at the whim of people who actually produce no wealth at all, but who miraculously end up owning it. Thanks, Lance, for the opportunity to sound off about that. Here's some more comments. Dan Hope says, speaking of nepotism, Tony Blair's son represents the company which is bringing in digital ID. I don't think he represents it. I think he owns it. Tony Blair's son, who's a mere boy, is worth several £100 million. His dad's worth a fair few shillings also. Chris W. says, how can Pakistan support Trump when he is so anti-Muslim? And Peter Anastasia says, thanks, George, for having Gerald Celente on your show. Always a treat to listen to his perspectives. And I love his passion and colourful language. Yes, yes to all that, although I did hear my editor faint at 1 or 2 points. Frank, where are the other bodies without electricity for refrigeration? The same place as the ones hit with 2,000-pound bombs. And Pebbles McCann says, when Qatar offered Trump a $400 million jet, Saudi pledged $600 billion, and the UAE a $1.4 trillion deal. Their betrayal of Palestine was already clear. Let's go to Massachusetts, where Scott wants to talk about Trump's success. Do tell us, Scott.
Well, George, I just wanted to give a better perspective on George, on Donald Trump. I never voted for Trump, not once. And I was so impressed that he came across with getting the hostages released and with getting a 21-point program to end the war in Gaza. And the world, they're kind of divided. The ones that hate Trump still hate Trump. The ones that love Trump are going ecstatic. And I just wanted to say that I am very impressed. I never voted for him. I voted for Kennedy last time, and I wish I would have voted for him now because, well, it worked out.
Will you still be impressed if none of it happens?
One way or the other, Hamas is coming out. Whether they got to go get him, or if they leave, or if they disarm, and that wouldn't be too wise because they're hated there. Yes, I will be very impressed if Hamas is taken out because they've been the problem for 2 years.
Will you be very impressed if the Palestinians are ethnically cleansed or reduced to hewers of wood and drawers of water for a Trump Disneyland owned by Jared Kushner? Because
no,
if it works, that's what it will be. Will you be impressed by that?
I would almost put money on it, George, that it's not going to happen. There's a 21...
What do you think is going to happen then?
They're going to be sitting in
Tell us
other...
what you think is going to happen. Tell us what you think of the 21... No, I'll let you speak for as long as you like. Tell us which parts of the 21-point program you think are actually going to happen.
Other nations, other Arab nations are going to send in troops to disarm Hamas. Hamas will leave.
That seems to be the only achievement you're interested in, Scott. What about the Palestinians?
They're going to be run by Arab nation conglomerate of leaders. That can't hurt for a while.
And would you accept that in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, or do you believe in democracy?
If Massachusetts were in that state, any kind of outside influence would be welcome. Now the people will have to vote on it. You know, when they make.
When are they getting a vote? When are they getting a vote on it, Scott?
As soon as possible.
Did you see any reference to the? Did you see in 21 points a single reference to the word vote?
No, but they should have a vote.
Quite.
And they will.
But the 21 points, that so impressed you, do not mention the word vote once.
Fortunate, and it will come to pass.
It's unfortunate, yeah. It's unfortunate. Here's my take, Scott. You are a well-meaning, liberal, Orientalist, apologist for empire. In all the time we've been talking, the only achievement that you have been able to cite is the removal of the party which won the election in Gaza, which already declared, by the way, that it is leaving power. That's the only achievement. You have the goal from the democracy of Massachusetts to acknowledge that the people in Palestine will not get a vote on their own future. And your acceptance of an American imposition of foreign rule doesn't become you as a citizen of a state which itself made a somewhat violent revolution in order to throw off the colonial shackles of the United Kingdom, as was Scott in Massachusetts, thinks he's a liberal, thinks he's a progressive. But you just heard liberal progressivism in all its rawness. Now, if you didn't know, there's a MOATS TV podcast, which does incredibly well. You can download it every week. It's a bite-sized version of this show with all the promos and ads and ums and ahs removed. You download it by scanning the QR code on your screen now. And you can listen, of course, via the moats.tv website. And once you've listened, please rate it and leave a review. Here is the latest chart figures. We are in the top 10 in Pakistan, Iraq, Peru, Nigeria, and the United Arab Emirates. That's quite a collection of places to be in the charts amongst. Osman is in Denmark. He wants to talk about Trump and Gaza. Let's see his point of view. Go ahead, Osman.
Hello, George. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very good. It's very clear.
Okay, nice. First of all, I will try to do it as fast as I can. You have my deepest respect, a true man of honor and dignity. You are a true hero for everyone in this world, a true hero. That's the one thing. The other thing I want to talk about, George, is the Donald Trump, how he's handling all this stuff with Gaza. If you go back when he saw the pictures with the starving children, I really think this guy, he wanted to stop the war in Gaza. But unfortunately, we have some billionaire Zionists who are controlling the media and who are controlling him. I'm talking about Rupert Murdoch. This guy, he owns the Wall Street Journal in USA. He owns the New York Post. He owns the Times in Britain. He owns the Sunday Times. In Australia, he owns the the Daily Telegraph, and I could go on. He owns so many media. This guy published the letter with who Donald Trump had sent to Epstein, where this letter about they have a secret and may the secret be there forever. When they published this letter, that was because I think that Trump, he really wanted to stop the fighting in Gaza, but the Zionist billionaires did not want him to stop, so they are blackmailing him. They have the Epstein files, and if you go back and make your research, you will know that Epstein, he was a Mossad agent. He was blackmailing the highest politicians in the USA, and that's a fact. You can check with the Tucker Carlson and see what this Candace Owen are talking about. So that I really think he wants to stop, but they had to pull the leash from Trump. Since that letter had been published, you haven't heard a single heartwarming, forgiving thing about Gaza. I think he is shackled from his hands to feet. He can't do anything because they told him, we will publish this if you don't do what we want to do, what we want. That's the one thing. The other thing I just want to quickly...
Go on, finish your point, yeah.
The other one thing I just want to comment on this guy and everyone who thinks about Hamas. Listen, no innocent people should be killed at all. But I live in Denmark. In 1945, we were occupied by Germany. There were also freedom fighters who fight against the occupation. The Palestinians have been occupied for so many years. When they did this attack, of course, it's horrible. But listen, these are freedom fighters. They are fighting for their freedom. You cannot call these terrorists, and you cannot disarm them. If you're going to disarm them, now the hostage is back. Thank God they are back, and thank God I hope this ceasefire will hold. But what's the guarantee that this will not continue again? The people in Israel are so pro-Israel. If you look at these polls, they want to annihilate Gaza. They don't care about the people in Gaza. So I don't think this plan will hold at all. It's just a matter of time when they will again begin the attacks. And
Well, look, Osman, I cut you short only because of the hour, because it was a very good and very clear call. But you're giving him far too easy a pass. I mean, do you think if someone had blackmail material on me, that it would change me? Do you think I would change my mind because somebody was threatening to blackmail me? You think I'd say black was white, or white was black, or day was night, or night was day, because somebody was going to expose me for something? I'd call a press conference and expose it myself. So, the thesis that you advance, that Trump would be good on the issue if it was not for the blackmail, is, and frankly, doesn't stand up to much examination. The 2016 to 2020 first term of Donald Trump was scarcely a period in which he showed much empathy for or sympathy for the Palestinian people. Of course, if you were a regular viewer, which I infer you're not, you'd already know that there's nobody in the world been exposing the Epstein affair as a blackmail conspiracy than me. I have year after year exposed the role of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the Mossad honey trap, and worse than honey trap that they were involved in, and the politicians who are compromised by it. I'm regularly doing my best to out them. So it's not like I need to research anything about this. You need to play back what I've been saying about this as part of your research. But at the end of the day, Trump boasted. He boasted in the Knesset of how he'd done everything. He gave them the weapons, and they used them well. Do you remember that he said that? It's only 2 days ago. Bibi asked me for all these weapons, and I gave him them. Some of them I didn't even know what they were, and I gave them, and they used them well. You used them well, Bibi. Do you know how he used them? He used them to tear babies limb from limb. He used them to tear women into pieces. The weapons that you gave him, Donald, that he used well, massacred hundreds of thousands of people. They maimed and mutilated hundreds of thousands of people. They caused the amputation, double amputation, triple, quadruple amputation of thousands of people. The weapons you gave them starved people to death. Death by hunger, by thirst, by tank, by shell, by shot. And all because they know his sexual peccadillos, and you're giving him a pass on that? Not me, Osman, not me. Eve is in Florida on the rapidly escalating crisis in Venezuela. Eve, welcome.
Yes, I wanted to speak about that, and also it links to a point that you made during your intro, which was extremely true, is the business of in Kandahar. Is that I think that what Trump told Netanyahu, he told Netanyahu, this Gaza business is not helping us. We are at the eve of World War III, and we have to worry about the logistics. We have to have the oil accessible, and the oil is going to come from Venezuela, and we have to calm down the situation because it has to come also from the Middle East. And this is what happened in World War II. In World War II, America got their oil from Venezuela, from Texas and California, but there is not that much more left, and from the Middle East. So Trump told Netanyahu, we are preparing for World War III against, possibly, we have an option on going to war against Russia, against China, against Iran. So that is, I think, the main reason why this relative calm came. And come with your point with Afghanistan is that he's after base, he's after assets, and he wants also the base in Afghanistan. So he's simply preparing for war.
Yeah, I agree with that. And of course, the reason I didn't say this, I omitted to say, that the reason he wants the Bagram air base is to threaten Iran, China, and Russia from it. It's not that he just wants the real estate, not going to turn it into a Jared Kushner condominium. They intend to base themselves in Afghanistan. Look at the map and see the countries that surround Afghanistan, and you'll see what it's all about. Eve, as always, wise counsel from you. Let's take Gayatri with the social media roundup. What's rattling, Gayatri?
Well, let's go to Africa and remember that on this day, 15 October 1987, the great Thomas Sankara was assassinated, age 37. He was the president of Burkina Faso for only 4 years, at the time still called Upper Volta, which he then renamed to Burkina Faso, meaning the land of the upright people. He was a great Pan-Africanist. He was charismatic, but humble, principled, and fiercely anti-neocolonialism. He famously said, I'm asked, where is this imperialism? And I say, just look on your plate. Imported rice, imported corn, imported millet. There is no need to look further. This is imperialism. He who feeds you also imposes his will on you. And so within his short period, he imposed land distribution from the feudal landlords to the farmers, in which he doubled the wheat production within 3 years, achieving self-sufficiency in food production. And he achieved so much within the very short period of 4-year rule. He put out a nationwide literacy campaign which increased the literacy rate from 13 to 73%. 10 million trees he planted to prevent desertification. I mean, he was ahead of his time. He built countries' infrastructure without foreign aid, and he advocated and implemented real women's rights, like the kind of rights that affect everyday African women. And he was the first African leader to put women into high government positions. I mean, he was so revolutionary that he is coined as Africa's Che Guevara for a reason. He said, while revolutionaries as individuals can be killed, you cannot kill ideas. And so today we see Thomas Sankara living in the form of Captain Ibrahim Traore. He is the leader that you spent time on the Red Square with in Moscow on Victory Day just a couple of months ago. And he continues the spirit of Thomas Sankara. He kicked out the French. He nationalized all the country's assets. He refuses foreign aid, just like Thomas Sankara. And our friend Jackson Hinkle is actually currently in Burkina Faso, and he today attended the anniversary memorial of this great leader who was assassinated on this day. Over to you.
Amen. I couldn't put it better. You brilliantly summarized his achievements in just 4 years, and these achievements are the reason that they murdered him. Imperialism murdered him because of these achievements, because they would have continued, and more importantly, because they would have spread. People would have said throughout Africa, Look what has been achieved by Sankara. Why can't you achieve anything like that? Sankara said, we have to choose between a few people being able to drink champagne or all our people having access to clean drinking water. He was indeed Africa's Che Guevara. And he was, as you rightly say, a very young man, younger even than your good self. He was a man in his 30s, just
Correct.
like Captain Traore is.
Correct.
The youngest political leader in the world. And that's what we need. New young leaders, like you, like them. We need a new generation now to take up the torch of liberty, of freedom, of advance for humanity. And the people who are bed blocking, and really bed blocking, you look at these leaders around the world, what are they achieving? What is the point of them? Why don't they just pick up their immoral earnings and go home? Because for all the good they are doing, they really might as well go. They are failures, each and every one of them. And I'm not just talking about Africa. In Cameroon, the incumbent president, who is still contesting that he won when he lost, was 92 years old. He's been in power for 45 years. What has he achieved for Cameroon? And there are many others I could mention, and not just in the global south, but in the Western world too. Over to you, Gayatri.
Well, funny enough, Thomas Sankara, he actually gained his revolutionary inspiration from his time in the military when during his 20s he was sent to Madagascar for training. And at the time, Madagascar in the 1970s was officially independent, but with a French-installed puppet president. So whilst he was in Madagascar in training, military training, he witnessed this popular uprising by students and farmers, which toppled this government and this French neo-colonialism in the state. And look what's happening in Madagascar right now. And we shall have a closer look at it in future shows, I'm sure.
Lo and behold, brilliant segue that, because this very week, another French puppet president of Madagascar has been overthrown by the masses and the military. Listen, I've got to go because there's a legend on the line. It's Norma in Bristol. Norma, finish the show for us.
Hello, George. Actually, bear with me because my breathing's a bit funny, but I'm really worried about Dr. Hassan Abu Safaya because he's got to be released soon by Israel. I followed him, right since he was outside the hospital in Gaza. I was trying to save his patients and his medical staff from being bombed, and then he was arrested and he's been tortured. I know there are other people very famous too, but I thought he was so brave, George, and he's my hero. And they keep saying he's going to be released.
He's everybody's hero. He's everybody's hero, Norma.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're sounding terrific and
good.
perkier than of late. I'm very glad to hear that. But he's everybody's hero. And that's why he was taken, because he is the emblem of Palestinian dignity, of medical practitioners' dignity, of the meaning of the Hippocratic oath. He refused to leave the hospital. He's an internationally eminent physician, but he refused to leave his patients behind. And that image of him walking out to meet the tanks and then being taken and not properly seen again, thrown into a dungeon and tortured, and brutally mistreated, maltreated, to the point that the last sighting of him, he was bent double in a corridor, a pale shadow of the man, the champion of the medical profession, the hero of the hospitals and of the Gaza Strip as a whole. They have attempted to crush Dr. Safia. And who's doing anything about getting him out? He was supposed to be on the list of the freed, but he is not yet freed. None of these 21 points have yet materialized. All of them are being broken, including that one. And while I'm on the subject, Norma, marwanbarghouti that we spoke about just the other night, it now transpires, is not going to be released, again in breach of the agreement. But he was brutally assaulted by 9 Israeli soldiers last month in September. 4 of his ribs were broken and he was knocked unconscious. This is the Nelson Mandela of Palestine I'm talking about. The only man that can bring peace with justice in Palestine. Knocked unconscious, 4 broken ribs by 9 thugs of the so-called Israel, so-called Defense Force. Norma, lovely to hear from you. You've perfectly, timeously brought the show to an end. We'll talk to you next from the very, very far, far east, God willing. And we may have some good news about the planned MOATS Asia. It's been a busy night. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, come back again on Sunday. It's been marvelous, as I say. Good night.
It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows.
Go get 'em, George.